Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AA, MP, and President of the Guyana Teachers Union. Comrade McDonald is unavoidably absent from this program tonight because of issues of national interest. And therefore, I want to tender an apology for our absence from this program tonight. My name is Dennis Jaikran, and I will be hosting this program tonight. The topic for tonight is things remain the same. Let me repeat the topic for tonight. Things remain the same. And before I give you the order of the presentation, viewers, let me just tender an apology for that break in transmission. It is not by our fault at the studios, but elsewhere. But we would contend with that. And so I was saying before we were cut off, so to speak, that before I give you the order of the presentation, this program would wish to say that from the last program last week to this one this week, we would have been able to receive from every single region of this country, from ministries and agencies, budget agencies, so to speak, many information that we would bring you tonight on this program. You know, this period of time or the span of time we have on this program, it is difficult for us to be able to cover the content therein. And therefore, we would have selected and prioritize, so to speak, areas in which we want to focus. And so the order of the presentation would be, we would deal with some education matters, we would deal with matters related to health, and we are going to deal with some general issues. And so let us, at this very beginning, deal with education issues. Issue number one is a very serious situation in the schools and regions across this country as it relates to tremendous overstaffing. And there's a rule, so to speak, about overstaffing. And once schools are overstaffed, then the head teacher of that particular school, the head of the Department of Education in the particular region, can be surcharged. And so if we have head teachers who sit and allow their schools to be overstaffed, then it is an indictment on the part of head teachers. Once upon a time, once there was been an extra unit sent to any school that is already adequately staffed, those good head teachers would not turn away the teacher, but would say politely to that teacher to report to the Department of Education for further instructions. This is not happening. And so while some schools are understaffed in this country, there are many schools that are overstaffed. And therefore, this program is calling upon the various departments of education to rationalize staffing in such a way that when our head teachers make the recommendation, they should be able to guide the head teacher. But then there's an upward system. And that system says that the head teacher would so declare a vacancy or the number of vacancies. And they are divided into two: junior vacancies and senior vacancies. And so in the junior vacancies, it gives the head teacher the opportunity to be able to say to the departments of education that these vacancies exist at the school. If this does not happen, and there's an encouragement on the part of a teacher, knowing well that a school is fully staffed, then the rule should come down which says the head teacher should be surcharged. Let this program make it known that the program has enough of information to confirm that all the secondary schools, 80% of the nursery schools, and 90% of the primary schools in Region 2 are tremendously overstaffed. And it is an indictment on the part of head teachers. It is an indictment on the part of the entire Department of Education. And mind you, in Region 2, there is a Teaching Service Commission representative that is, so we want to suggest, encouraging this level of staffing. But it goes further that when persons are recommended and supported by the Department of Education and the representative of the Teaching Service Commission, they are not necessarily the most qualified of the persons that would have applied. And there is a level of discrimination as it relates to the employment of teachers, not only in Region 2, but very many regions, based on friends, families, and favorites. This program is going to come to that later on as it relates to that kind of employment. And this is very discriminatory to have this done. And so what is it that these head teachers, the departments of education, and in Region 2, the Teaching Service Commission representative is saying to our learners that are adequately qualified with mathematics and English at grades 1 to 3, coming from very poor families, families that are in need of having their children employed, and they have a desire to become teachers, have a desire to train as teachers, and they cannot be able to be employed. This program is saying and bringing it to the attention of all taxpayers of this country that there is total, and if the evidence is needed, this program can bring, I can call the names. Right now, this program can announce the names of persons who would have been employed and they were not the best qualified persons, but can show the association of to whom they were relatives of, or who they are relatives of. But we are going to deal with that on this program later on. So that is an issue as it relates to overstaffing. And so here is where this program is going to make the point that in schools where head teachers have their children, we can name the schools, we can name the head teacher, we can name the student, the person that is being employed, are selected, recommended, despite the fact that these schools are overstaffed, but because their parents are the teachers of these schools, but woefully inadequately qualified as against other persons who are very much in need and cannot get it, but would have been recommended despite the fact is the school is being overstaffed tremendously. And so here is where the head teacher should be surcharged. The district education officer of the particular level, whether it's nursery, primary, or secondary, should also be surcharged for not ensuring that staffing needs are based on vacancies. And the redo of these regions, especially Region 2, because the redo also would have had in the employ of this region, this same Region 2, her siblings that are not adequately qualified as other persons. And not only that, the schools to which they were placed were already overstaffed. And so this is a situation where discrimination is taking place, where head teachers and the Department of Education are collaborating, so to speak, to cause the poor children of poor families to be discriminated against. And this has to be forcefully brought to the taxpayers of this country. Because if you work out from the nursery school to the time of these learners being presented for CSEC, and the amount of money that would have been spent at nursery, primary, secondary level to cause these children to have better grades than those fortunate to get a job, like the head teacher or the head teachers, their children, and the Red One officers, their children, as against poor parents with their children having better grades and subjects and cannot get a job. This is discrimination, and this program is highlighting it so that taxpayers of this country, and again, this program is saying, if there is the wish for the names of the schools and their teachers to be named and called, this program is willing to do that right now. And any comment this program would see that would want to force this program to give the name, tonight it would come out. It would come out tonight. So that is overstaffing. I want to deal, this program now deals with CPC, Sir Potter College of Education, the training programs that are there. They have about 10 or 11 optional things therein as it relates to the offering at Teachers Training College. 2 weeks ago, this program brought to the attention of all taxpayers of this country an instruction, not a circular, but an instruction, a memo. But this program is going to term it an instruction from the Chief Education Officer instructing all teachers of public and private schools to be registered at all teachers training, well, the CPC in all the different regions and at the center at Turkey. But what was not said in the circular, which would have been an indictment, a shame, a disgrace to what educational standards are at this stage, that for entry into training college, you do not need to be qualified. And I am qualifying that by saying that the circular said, the memo said, nothing about entry requirement to training college. Historically, if you wanted to go to training college, you had to be adequately qualified. And you know, it is time for this program to give some credit or serious credit to the Guyana Teachers Union, the professional development arm of that union. At that particular time, developed study guides so that teachers in the system that were not at a particular level to enter into teachers training college, to give them an opportunity to write the end of third year teachers examination, the end of fourth year teachers examination, and teachers intermediate examination. And so once you would have had any of those three with the other qualifications that you entered with into the system, adequately qualified, but these programs made you far more professional and prepared for training. And they were not upgrading programs, they were professional advanced programs. And so that would have been done away with. But credit to the Guyana Teachers Union for offering and developing through its professional arm, development arm, those study guides. And many teachers entered into teachers training college with those additional professional qualifications. That has been thrown through the window. And so there's no more 5 subjects at CSEC at 2 sittings with mathematics and English, grades 1 to 3. I guess the CEO knows that level of entry requirement. And I guess those that they have heading these centers are aware of that, and I don't think they are aware, including the chief education officer. There is nothing of entry into teachers training college to cause. But this is what the circular said, or the memo, that they are going to upgrade these teachers 1 year, for 1 year, and then the next year they would complete the course of study. It is like going somewhere and you don't have to write that examination. So teachers and teachers training college, it is a situation of a free movement from entry to exit, and you get that qualification. This program cannot say whether it is certification, but for the purposes of what the chief education officer would have said, it is for qualification. This program is concerned that that is not certification. Therefore, those teachers that are half-baked, quarter-baked, put into the system after that course of study. Notice this program is not saying course of training, that course of study offered to them, becoming trained teachers regardless of no entry requirement. And the head teachers of these schools that have to take care of them would be in serious trouble, because you can assume that their delivery is going to be very poor. And head teachers, based on the number of records that they have to keep, do not have the time to be able to upgrade courses that the Ministry of Education would say to you would pass through CPCE without any entry requirement, and then complete a course of study, and you have that qualification, but no level of certification. You know who are made to suffer? The learners in the system. Our parents are made to suffer because the teachers are not professionally trained, because they do not have an academic background. That is the level of what the Ministry of Education would have brought teachers training to. in this country. Shameful indictment on the part. And so, what is happening? The question is, parents are asking, what is happening with the education system? But here is one. There were persons who were employed in other regions not adequately qualified. The evidence is anything we see on this program, the evidence is there. Persons that were not adequately qualified were employed in remote and riverine area in Region 3, were brought to Region 2 as part of an arrangement because of some kind of connection in teachers training college. But you know there's no level entry requirement. So what is there? The output is going to be very, very poor. So you bring in, you import courses that are not adequately qualified. You import them into this region, despite the fact all the schools are overstaffed and there is no Auditor General. There is a section in the report of the Auditor General that speaks to staffing. And so if there is an increase in staffing from one year to another year, there has to be justification. But you do not see that question or table put there to say by the Auditor General that there has been an increase. So there is serious covering up, so to speak, as it relates to what is happening in the system. The third point this program would want to make is a situation in which a nursery school head teacher, and this is the fourth time this program is bringing it to the attention because it is an indictment, that this nursery school head teacher from South Eskimo would have been out of this jurisdiction, and if they want the evidence to say when, and I hope the chief and immigration officer, the commissioner of police, because this program has the evidence, when this head teacher returned to Guyana 1 week after the closure of school. And this same head teacher would have had her sibling been employed despite the fact that this sibling was far less qualified, but because of the relationship between this head teacher and the Department of Education, the REDO and the DEO nursery, the suggestion is that there was employment. And so that sibling who is a teacher at the same school where this head teacher, this is an indictment. In the last week of school, the last day of school, these head teachers ought to be there. So this program is asking, why is it the REDO is silent on this? Why is it the DEO nursery is silent on this? Because the teacher could not have obtained leave because of the time that this teacher was employed. And if that head teacher would have obtained leave, what leave? This program is asking, causing this head teacher to be out of school in the last week of the closure of school for the academic year to 2025. This is an indictment. And the Redo Region 2 and the DO Nursery, or if they are two DOs, and the particular head teacher of a school, nursery school in South Essequibo, ought to answer the question. Because taxpayers' money would have been used to pay the teacher and the head teacher of the school. This is an indictment. And this program is calling on the Redo. Let this program bring to the attention, and then there's going to be an explanation. This is a circular dated the 20th of May 2008. And this circular speaks to and it is under the hand of the then Chief Education Officer, which says, and I tell you, I was then a regional education officer, so I know what I'm saying. It says, procedures in relation to the acquisition and expenditure of non-budgetary funds, including contingency funds and donations. I want the Redo, the CEO, the Redo Region 2, the DO or the DO's nursery in Region 2. If they have this circular, to read it, because this circular speaks of sanction. And so for the purpose of this program, I'm just going to read two sections, and then I'm going to read a sanction and then make a comment. No head teacher is allowed to keep any non-budgetary funds in his or possession, nor on his her own authority permit any teacher to do so. So no head teacher is authorized to do that, no teacher. The circular is clear. This is the fourth no head teacher. The first one and second one I didn't read. The third one I read just now. And the fourth says, no head teacher or member of the staff is authorized to solicit any donation, whether monetary or material in nature, from any parent, member of the community, private or public agency, or any source which may be available. Any such donation to any school must be entirely voluntary and given without conditions. Such donations, too, must be entered in the school's logbook and recorded in the school's inventory and stock book, whichever is appropriate. You know, there are what you call consumable items that would go in the stock book, and there are capital items that would go in the inventory. I guess the Redo Region 2 knows that. I don't think she knows that. As stipulated in the financial regulations, a letter of thank you must also be dispatched to the donor and a copy kept on file. Desks, benches, chairs, tables, chair and table combinations, photocopiers, musical instruments, to name a few, or similar pieces of equipment fall within the scope of such donations. The head of Department of Education, the Redo in this case, must be informed within 7 working days. Now, let us deal with this here. And not only But emphasis is placed on this particular because it is an indictment and there's a cover-up that this particular nursery school head teacher in South Essequibo would have been in contravention of this circular, especially no head teacher at number 4. And the Department of Education, the REDO and DEO, if they have DEO's nursery, they sit idly by and allow this infraction to take place in Region 2. But they cannot do better because the assumption is, and the program is suggesting that there are goodies attached to arrangements. And so it is difficult when you are receiving to stop an infringement or an unscrupulous behavior of a head teacher, breaking the rules of this circular. And so let us deal now with the sanctions. Head teachers indulging in acts that contravenes this circular, and already that head teacher would have contravened the circular many times, even this week and last week and the week before, because a number of tours would have been held by the school and parents were instructed to cause payments to be made. That is suggested to this thing, this program is suggesting, for tours to be held to different regions. That is a matter for the Department of Education to investigate because the head teacher continues to contravene this circular. So it says again, let me read again, the head teachers indulging in acts that contravene this circular will be charged, REDO, Region 2, for insubordinate conduct and would be placed before the disciplinary committee. This must be done. This program is not going to rest this of the Teaching Service Commission to answer such charges. Here is one. Any education officer found guilty, it is happening in Region 2, the REDO and the DO nursery, or the DO, guilty of condoning the head teacher, and this is condoning the head teacher, the head teacher's illegal behavior will be disciplined by the Public Service Commission. The only problem this one has, well, the Teaching Service Commission, remember, there's a representative that suggestively is part and parcel of arrangement of employment. And so if this head teacher goes to Teaching Service Commission, the suggestion is that this member of the Teaching Service Commission might take the side. That is a different story. But as it relates to disciplining the DO and the REDO, because it is understood, and this program very well believes, that a particular DO nursery who was then DO 1 boasted of being appointed DO 2 before the interview was held with the DO 1. And why this boasting took place? Because the DO 1 then assured the REDO and staff that the DO nursery 1 would be appointed DEO 2 because there is a relationship at the Public Service Commission. How do you put people on these commissions that are using relationships to condone wrongdoing. Where are we going with the education system in this country? And so this program is bringing this circular to the attention of the Chief Education Officer and the Red O, especially Region 2. You know, last Sunday, our teachers in this region held a walk as it relates to, I think, is Cancer Awareness Month. Kudos to those who arrange. But this program was told that despite it, and the Redo did it before because there was a walkathon before, and the Redo of this region refused to support the teachers of this region. So Region 2, teachers who are listening to this program, you are now told again that the Redo Region 2, the substantive Redo, who was politically appointed some time ago, refused to support the teachers. And if you don't believe that, you must know when the teachers were on protest action in this region for their own cause, it was the Redo of this region then acting that called the police on the teachers of this region. Don't forget these things. And it was the Redo who dilly-dally, despite the fact promised the persons who visited the office that transportation would be made available for the walkathon and snacks or breakfast would be provided for the teachers, turn away from that arrangement. That is an indictment. And the cash flow was before the team that went. And the persons there showed the Redo where the money could have come from. The same thing happened despite the fact this program was told that despite the fact that the Redo was on leave or still on leave, refused to support the teachers in Region 2. This is an indictment. And you know, up to today, head teachers would have complained that they are still receiving school supplies up to this week, up to today. And school reopened how many weeks ago? This is the Redo that is managing this region. History would have it recorded that this Redo and the one before her, when you put them together, would have been the worst of its set. History would have it as managing education in this region. This is shame and disgrace. And that is why education is at this level, not only in Region 2, but across this country. We have to speak it as it is on this program because the evidence is there. And so schools are now still receiving bad, so to speak. Let us turn our attention to what is known as graduation for TVET institution. That would be the Technical Institutes, Carnegie School of Home Economics, these centers that you have at Lenora, Skeldon, and I don't recall which one, Port Moran, and so. The heads of these institutions, and I can speak again because once upon a time, I was the principal of the Essequibo Technical Institute and the first appointed principal of the Linden Technical Institute. Historically, Linden Technical Institute would have been under the management of the bauxite industry. And in 1996, there was this name change to the Linden Technical Institute. It was until I went there on transfer by Sheikh Baksh, the then Minister of Education, thinking that he would have done an injustice to me. He sent me into my own backyard, that I would go there and I would leave the work. But I've always reported that my best days in education was in Region 10, the Linden Technical Institute. Sheikh Baksh, if you're listening, that is what you sent me there for. But when you recognize that I was doing groundbreaking work here, you are sorry. But let us come back to graduation. I want to conclude, or this program would want to conclude, that these heads of these TVET institutions, they are either weak or they are politically guided. I say this program is saying it, that these heads of technical institutions across this country, they have to seek permission from the Council of TVET before they hold any graduation exercise. Let this program say to this nation, taxpayers of this country, that the principal, in conjunction with the staff and the board of governors of the particular TVET institution, would make that determination when they would hold graduation exercises, and not the Council for TVET. But I guess the person who is heading the Council for TVET is looking for credit. But this program is saying to these heads of TVET institutions in this country, you have to be bold. And boldness does not mean disrespectful. And make your decisions with your board, not the Council for TVET. Chief Education Officer, these institutions are under your charge. And this program would have been told that there is serious conflict between the Council for TVET and the Office of the Deputy Chief Education Officer Technical. Once there is that electric charge between these two units that ought to work together, then technical education in this country is going to continue to be in crisis. Let us program make one point as it relates to this graduation, and we'll off with that. There is this thought, and these schools and their teachers are told that they are doing the CVQ program, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification Program. That is not true. What the schools in this country are doing is the NVQ, the National Vocational Qualification. They have not reached that standard for the CVQ, which is a Caribbean recognized qualification. They are now doing it at the national level. CEO, cause to happen in a very short while from now. A meeting with your council for TVET and your DCO, technical, and all those officers, and let them correct that misguided information in the Ministry of Education. Because there are certain requirements. The requirements that are there, those requirements have to be what you call levels of attainment, achievement. And so, what are these levels there? Are these schools doing it? Do they have the necessary pieces of equipment? Do they have the areas in which to work? Are our teachers adequately trained? Because they are complaining bitter CEO, they are complaining bitterly. They are not provided with that training, but they are forced to do it because there has been no accreditation of these schools as it relates to the NVQ and or the CVQ. There is no accreditation of these programs, these CEO Tech. You have a PhD, I don't know in what. 2 weeks, I understand you spent in India to do a PhD. That was told. We want to suggest that. But you are a waste of time. The DCO Tech, you are a waste of time. And somebody must tell this nation, how is it you got on the cadet course and what was your performance? Somebody must tell this nation. So, heads of technical institutions, be bold. Be bold. Don't let the head of the council for TVET railroad you into that. I should have been the principal of either the Executive Technical Institute or Linden Technical Institute at this time. And then I would have shown them that they could not have directed me on that. So that is it. Administrative appointment. Both the Teaching Service Commission and the School Board Secretariat, they continue to make administrative appointments in an effort to prevent experienced and adequately qualified persons to fill those vacancies. A number of administrative appointments would have been made over the past year. And some people were rewarded for their non-support for the protest action taken by the Guyana Teachers Union, and rightfully so, based on the constitution of this country, based on the labor laws, and based on the bilateral arrangement that would have broken down, based on the conciliation that would have broken down, and based on no arbitration that was supposed to be held to give our teachers an opportunity for an increase in salaries. And teachers, you are hoodwinked, some of you. You are hoodwinked in such a way, but you have to think it over. The Guyana Teachers Union is your legal representative as it relates to the Trade Union Act. Only recognize union to represent teachers. And for the Guyana Teachers Union to function and to function effectively, this program is appealing to all the teachers across this country to be able to consider in a very short while from now, maybe by tomorrow, to start paying up union dues so that your union can be adequate, can be in a position rather to make representation on your behalf. That is aside. But let us come back to administrative appointments. And so, in Region 2, you had a head teacher of Aurora Secondary School, rewarded for something, administrative appointment. The head teacher and deputy head teacher of Abramsville Secondary School, administrative appointment. The head teacher of Queenstown Primary School, based on association relationship, administrative appointment. A number of schools in Georgetown, Region 3, other regions, administrative appointment as a reward. In some cases, for betraying the union and teachers of this country. But this program would now wish to place on record and to advise that there are arrangements in place for an administrative appointment to be made in promotion of maybe a promoter of the KFC products, leg, breast, and thigh promotion, for such a person to be administratively appointed to the Tushin Secondary School. Somebody must be bold enough to say to this program that what this program is saying tonight, that there are arrangements to appoint somebody already identified for administrative appointment to Tushin Secondary School. Let us wait and see, not what is going to happen, but when it is going to happen. This is another way of rewarding and awarding people for non-performance. There's a concept which says that persons are awarded for non-performance. It is happening in Region 2, or it happened then, and people became education officers. They were at primary schools. And so you reward failures. And when you reward failures, you are rewarding a failed system. So wait and see what is going to happen, but this program would like you to tell us when it happens and how it happens. We are closing on matters as it relates to education, but two more. Can the Chief Education Officer of this country tell the taxpayers of this country what is the present position of the troubled regional education officer of Region 8? Mind you, that prior to this person being appointed or awarded the position and rewarded for many things as regional education officer, that the CEO must also say to this nation, the taxpayers of this country, of that infraction and indictment as it relates to what this teacher, as suggested by at Belwest Primary School, as it relates to the national grade 6 assessment in a particular year. We close on this aspect of the two more about education very quickly and then we close. Parika Salem Secondary is also a school that is plagued by pigeon infestation. And you would have heard the Minister of Education at BV Primary making some very, very uncivilized and maybe unconscious statements, starting with, this is not happening only in Guyana. This is not only to the effect, rather. It is not only happening in Guyana. It is not only happening in BV. Address your situation. And so there was no comfort to the people, the parents rather, the teachers and teachers of BV Primary School. And Education Minister, this program is bringing to your attention. It was because of the activism of the Guyana Teachers Union that a visit was made sometime 2 days ago, and they were able to engage the Department of Education, not the regional administration, because that regional administration, we understand this program is made to understand that the head of administration of Region 3 is a school dropout and a failure. But the Department of Education would have been able to some extent address the issue, but much more to be done, 90% to be done of this pigeon infestation. And then there was a walk across because the two schools are in the same compound, rather, so to speak. And there is serious shortage of pieces of furniture. And again, thanks to the Guyana Teachers Union, as reported by the teachers of those schools, that, and here what they said, 20 combination sets. This is disgraceful and shameful. This is being reactive, and you manage a region, especially education. When you manage a region as a regional executive officer, while your priorities might be for other areas, the two most important would be health and education. But if you do not have an understanding of the functioning of education and health and the regional system, then you are receiving taxpayers' money by default. Ghana Teachers Union, this program is giving you the credit that is due to you for those interventions. The Ministry of Education, this is another point. The Ministry of Education, would have put out recently let me just say, Ministry of Education, National Learning Outcomes for Primary Schools, grade 1, Mathematics, Science, Social Studies, and grade 2, same National Learning Outcomes for primary schools, grade 2, Mathematics, Science, and Social Studies. These booklets would have been sent to schools in a particular region. Whichever region it was sent to, in a matter of hours, there was this withdrawal of these national outcome, these booklets. And so the question the teachers and the teachers and parents are asking, why is it this withdrawal? And it was suggested by some parents that on the front page of both grade 1 and grade 2, if the photographs are not suitable, that withdrawal would have been made. That is suggested, or that something within the booklet would have caused the withdrawal. This program is saying that teachers, head teachers, and parents are concerned of the withdrawal of the national learning outcome for primary schools, grade 1 and grade 2, mathematics, science, and social studies. Concern about the abrupt withdrawal of such documents. And so this program is saying that again, taxpayers' money would have been used to print these booklets. And the mere fact that there is withdrawal of these booklets, for whatever reason that taxpayers would want to know, that teachers, and parents would want to know, that the CEO must answer this question, because you are servant of the people and you are head of education in this country. And so that part would allow us to close with education. There are a number of issues we want to talk about as it relates to health. But this program is going to deal with one aspect, and once time would have permitted us, we are going to deal with the other aspect. This program would have been reliably informed that there was a fire at public hospital Suddy. A fire in any form or way, especially at state properties, must be taken seriously, because it is taxpayers' money that would have been used to construct these facilities. The owner of these facilities are taxpayers of this country, and not the people that are in the employ of these institutions. This program is very much concerned and has reported to this program of the water, not thrown on the fire, but the situation. Why is it this matter is being treated so lightly? And so this program is seriously asking the question, then making a recommendation. The question is, why is it the hospital administrator of public hospital Suddy We don't want to say taken into custody, but to say that and ask the question, why was the hospital administrator not properly interrogated on this matter by the police nor the Guyana Fire Service? Is there something to be covered up as it relates to the destruction or this fire in a state property at the public hospital study? This program is strongly recommended that there be a reopening of this case, and to cause to happen, the Guyana Police Force and the Fire Service to interrogate, to question, and to inquire of the hospital administrator as it relates to this infraction and indictment. It is serious. It is serious. There are other health matters, but once we have the time, we are going to deal with it. Now, as it relates to general issues, there is a situation in which this program is again bringing to the attention of NDIA, the public, and the Minister of Agriculture, for which NDIA falls under, despite the fact it is managed by a CEO, that NDIA vehicles are consistently being serviced at a private workshop, unregistered and not classified in any way or in any form. And the question is, why is it NDIA vehicles, state vehicles, not the drivers owning these vehicles, not the manager of NDIA in Region 2 owning these vehicles? They are all state properties, and taxpayers must know. But the question is, why do you take? And the thing about the observation is that these vehicles are taken there only on weekends and holidays. And somebody was bold to ask the question on behalf of this program, why is it these vehicles are taken there? And it was suggested that because of financial arrangements, these vehicles are taken there where the drivers do benefit. This again, we are using infraction and indictment. We are not saying breaking the laws, because it is more than that. That is also an infraction and indictment, taking these vehicles to private places for serving, government vehicle, state vehicle, whereas you have the regional workshop, you have the Essequibo Technical Institute, and give them the opportunity to do the servicing. But no, it is being done at the cost, expense of taxpayers' money and private people gaining. Second point on the general issues. Recently, there was a big and serious situation. Notice this program is using the word big. And serious situation at the Vilvoorden, or emanating out of this dust situation, pollution there, so to speak, at the Vilvoorden rice mill. This has been going on, and let this program make it known that this program does not hold any brief or give any support to what took place. But this program is drawing the principles that are supposed to be taken and observed out of this situation. And so that this dust here would have been affected 2 villages and maybe 3, Middlesex, Vilvoorden, and Fairfield, the residents, so to speak. And nothing would have been done. These things this program can only conclude that the management, the executive director of EPA, and all the members of staff of EPA who are employees of the state and servants of the state paid by taxpayers of this country would have failed not only the residents of Middlesex, Vilvoorden, and Fairfield, but in every part of this country and in this region. EPA is wasting taxpayers' money. And the persons there that would have been protesting should have protested the removal of the executive director. And there's one here that you call the head of the investigation and environmental head of investigation and enforcement at EPA. Some Suraj Paul Singh talk about noise polluters can be fined up to 7. Coming to that, the executive director and all these gentlemen that you're talking about that are receiving taxpayers' money and are excursion when they go to different regions should be sent packing. They are the cause of people suffering in this country with noise, dust, and chemical pollution. And when they send a team out, all they go is excursion. And in some cases, before these teams arrive in regions, people who are working there are informing the people who are to be investigated. And there are in some cases that persons are not going to say yes, they are affected because there's something that they benefit from when people go to these workshops. And in other cases, some people would have a relationship, maybe religious relationship, and would not want to condemn their brothers. But yet people continue to suffer. And EPA and all the executive director and all members of staff continue to receive taxpayers' money and doing nothing about what is happening here. Not only EPA, but before we go there, noise polluters can be fined. This is what the head of the investigation and enforcement of EPA said. This is a waste of time. All these things that this gentleman, his photograph is at the back here, would have said is a waste of time. Waste of time. And he's wasting time too because he's collecting taxpayers' money to work with the Guyana police force. Now, the first thing can be fined up to $750,000. Let this program see. Once taxpayers, persons who are officers who are paid by taxpayers of this country go to investigate, like the police, once they go to investigate, and there is this fine of $750,000, the likelihood is that these persons from the Environmental Protection Agency listen to the language. The likelihood is that this program would want to suggest that they would be compromised. And so instead of having them go to court to be convinced and be guilty of and pay $750,000 as a fine, once there is a fine, and this is going to be told to those who are very offensive to different communities and persons. Let us settle it at a reduced cost. The situation would continue. Residents are going to continue to suffer. And this is what is happening. And EPA, the situation at the Vilvoorden rice mill, the suffering of the people at Vilvoorden, Fairfield, and Middlesex, and other parts of this country who are suffering from the same thing, and noise, dust, and chemical pollution emanating out of illegal and unauthorized mechanical workshops, as the EPA will have very many letters from since last year, knowing well where this workshop is located, and are encouraging it. The EPA, this program would be bold enough to say that the EPA is responsible for the suffering of the people, the residents of Fairfield, Vilvoorden, and Middlesex, as well as across this country in different communities where they turn a blind eye, knowing very well they are paid by taxpayers of this country and are not doing their work. And so they should be sent packing because they are a waste of time. Same thing with GPL. There's something called the loss reduction unit. And like the $750,000 fine, this program would want to suggest that when this crew would have gone to particular areas and there is this discovery of illegalities and sums of money ought to be paid, the suggestion is that the illegality would continue because there is a settlement. Suggestion: GPL, executive, whatever structure you have, managing director, what have you, seek to find out and investigate the loss reduction unit, what that unit is doing. This program might be able, suggestively, to bring an evidence. NIS and GRA are also, and I'm coming back to the Vilvoorden rice mill story, and all these illegal workshops and what have you, they are compromised in this situation. They are underestimating. And you know, when you go to NIS and you go to GRA, the NIS pensioners have to stand up in the lines or are seated outside. And when the contractors and the businessmen come with their bags and briefcases, whatever they have inside, they have free access to the officers of NIS. As a matter of fact, it is reported to this program that maybe before they arrive there, they are told that they would be there. And these officers of NIS would gravitate to cause them to go, whereas you have persons there, pensioners long before. The Ministry of Labor, Occupational Health and Safety Department has also failed the people of Fairfield, Vilvoorde, and Middlesex, and across this country. Well, you know, the minister is no more there. He was a waste of time, Joe Hamilton. Waste of time. I hope he can account for his stewardship. His legacy is zero in that ministry. Zero. But he was put there as an advisor. I don't know to advise on what. To advise on what? But you ever heard anything about this new minister? The Board of Industrial Trading is a very selective group in there. And the persons who they select to train under the different programs are also in a compromised situation. Guyana Fire Service, that is another waste of time. What they are good about, especially those in Region 2, to wash the car park for PPP rallies, to put up PPP flag at the High Bridge and elsewhere, and to be involved in PPP activities. If you are to give them any credit, give them for that. Give them for that. As it relates to the safety of people and checking up of these places, you have businesses with gas bottles across this country. Anytime fire can go off, at Guyana Fire Service, the head of which is a political man, sit idly by and they do nothing. Viewers, we think we are wrapping up, so that I want to cover very quickly. We are going to deal, let this program say to you, we are going to deal on the next program with the situation at Cottonfield Secondary, where we have 33 persons who are employed that are not speaking English. We are going to talk about the poor wages and what have you. We are going to talk about advances in the regions. We are going to talk about the Saudi market that has not commenced yet. We are going to talk about the Westbury Fund, State House Fund, and we are going to talk about SUNite Fund in the next program. But as we close, let us come back very quickly to say that this program is very much concerned that there is no move in any direction to cause to happen any investigation of the missing items at the Oscar Joseph Cottage Hospital at Charity. His program is calling out the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General, and the regional administration to address this stuff. And this program would have given an outline what is happening the next time, so this program would commence with what would have been said there, so that we have a smooth flow on this program. Viewers, we want to thank you very much for allowing yourselves to listen to this program. And we ask and urge of you to continue to look at this program, to continue to make your valuable submissions as it relates to items that you would want to see on this program. Thank you very much. Good night, and may God bless you.